When children are at the epicenter of a criminal act, shock and disgust are common reactions. But when these crimes of rape, abuse, and even murder become normal for children to go through across the entire world, it raises the question, what will be enough to stop these criminals from acting like monsters in the first place? So far, the answer is nothing. This is Prime Crime, a WION special series. I'm your host, Dharamjot Kaur. Welcome to the show. When you think of a 15-year-old's life, what is it that comes to mind? School corridors, exams, friendship, laughter, dreams about the future. But for Kawthar Al-Husayjawi, childhood was tragically cut short. For her, the danger did not come from outside her home. It came from those closest to her. And this is her tragic story. Kawthar was born and raised in Al-Nahrawan, a district of southeastern outskirts of Baghdad. She pulled out of school and at just 13 years old was forced into marriage with a man who was significantly older than her. He was also reportedly struggling with alcoholism. What followed was not the promise of a happy marriage. It was, according to reports, a year marked by fear and violence. Day after day, she endured abuse at the hands of her husband. Eventually, unable to bear it any longer, Kawthar fled. She returned to the one place she believed would protect her, her family home. What she could not have known was that the refuge that she sought in her own home would become the setting for an even greater tragedy. What awaited Kawthar at home was not the freedom that she hoped for. According to the reports, her return was met with strict restrictions and relentless pressure to reconcile with her husband. But Kawthar refused. Determined not to return to the marriage, she reportedly warned that she would rather end her own life than be forced to go back. For a moment, it appeared her resistance had prevailed. In the year 2015, her divorce was finalized. To Kawthar, it may seem like the ordeal was finally over. But the calm was deceptive. The relief she felt would be short-lived, and the countdown to another tragedy had already begun. A cousin of hers, who had recently been released from prison, approached Kawthar's family with a proposal of marriage. Kawthar refused. She reportedly knew of his involvement in drugs and alcohol and feared that she was being pushed towards a future that was disturbingly similar to the one that she had just fled. Once again, the 15-year-old stood her ground. But this time, her objections carried little weight. Her family approved the marriage, adhering to a deeply rooted custom that, in their view, placed a man's request above a woman's wishes and her decision. A wedding date was set. As the day drew closer, so did Kawthar's desperation. She feared that another cycle of abuse and violence awaited her. And so she ran away. But the 15-year-old teenager's escape was short-lived. According to the account, she was spotted by a neighbor and then abducted. For 3 days, she was held against her will. Later on, by her own account, she spoke of suffering terrible things during that period, but never publicly revealed full details of what she really endured. She expected support. Instead, she faced suspicion. Members of her family believed that she had in fact left willingly. Even when surveillance footage reportedly showed her being taken by force, those closest to her refused to accept her version of events. The evidence was there, but for Kawthar, proving the truth would not be enough. She was questioned repeatedly by her father, her uncle, and her fiancé. Then one day she was taken to an isolated area on the outskirts of this city. And that was the last time that she was seen alive. According to reports and accounts from her own relatives, she was murdered. 10 bullets pierced into her body and her head was split with an axe. She died. Rather, she was killed. But instead of grief, instead of remorse, there were celebrations in the family. Later on, allegations also emerged that a police officer was approached to falsify records, suggesting that she had been kidnapped and then killed. But the case did not remain silent. Women within the extended family began speaking out. They shared her name, they shared her photograph, and images of those they believed were responsible. All of that was circulating through social media and other media pages in a desperate bid for justice for a 15-year-old. And if justice was not immediately possible, they said they at least wanted one thing: the right for Kawthar to be buried with dignity. Her body without a shroud or ritual washing was passed between holes. But what does justice look like in a system where honor killing, and yes, this is honor killing, is not always explicitly recognized by law? Because under Iraq's legislation, a person who kills his wife or a close female relative after discovering her in an act of adultery may be punished by imprisonment for a period not exceeding 3 years. For the crime is not viewed as deliberate or fully constituted murder, but rather as a family accident which has gone out of control. What's worse is that the country has a law of late which legalizes the marriage of children as young as 9 years old. The question now is, will the teen who was killed by her own family, the men of her family, finally get justice? Religion and religious leaders are not one and the same. The distinction is important because not every religious leader truly imbibes the scriptures. On the contrary, they hide behind the power of their position to at times commit horrendous acts and then get away with it. But not all powerful criminals ultimately get away with it. Sometimes there are instances in criminal acts that do come to light, and these so-called leaders have to answer for them. One such crime that has come under the scanner is from Sri Lanka, and at the center of it is a senior Buddhist monk, Palegama Hemarthana. Now, Hemarthana stands accused of sexual abuse of an 11-year-old girl, abuse that is said to have occurred over several years. Authorities had arrested the 71-year-old clergy on May the 9th from Jayasri Mahabodhi Temple in Anuradhapura, which is around 200 kilometers north of the capital, Colombo. But then a court granted him bail last week, which is when the news also came out. As things stand, charges are yet to be filed against the senior monk, and he is not allowed to leave the country. His defense lawyer says that Hemarthana is being investigated for statutory rape, but the religious leader denies all the allegations against him. However, the case has drawn too much attention and triggered unease within Sri Lanka's Buddhist communities. In fact, the country's Buddhist hierarchy suspended the accused senior monk from his responsibilities. The leader has lost oversight of the country's 8 most sacred Buddhist sites. And this includes a highly revered and venerated ficus, which is said to have been grown from the sapling of a tree from India under which Lord Buddha apparently sheltered and attained enlightenment. To add to his woes, Buddhist clergy suspended Hemarthana on the same day that Sri Lanka celebrated Vesak, which is the anniversary of Lord Buddha's birth, enlightenment and passing. That's not all. Authorities in Sri Lanka have said that even the victim's mother was arrested for reportedly aiding and abetting the monk in his criminal activity meted out at her own child. Sri Lanka's media has been relatively silent on the matter, given the high-profile nature of this case. But this is not the first or isolated incident involving religious leaders or practitioners who have been accused of abusing minors. The OCCRP, which is the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, has released a report on a number of claims against Buddhist monks in Sri Lanka. According to this report, there are complaints registered against 275 monks in the last 3 years alone. These instances have been recorded between May the 1st, 2023 to May the 1st, 2026. In fact, it is Sri Lanka's National Child Protection Authority which revealed this data. The report goes on to say that of the total number of recorded instances, 27 of them led to authorities filing charges against the accused individuals. And 70% of the total documented cases are of sexual abuse. And yes, these are just about the documented cases so far. The NCPA and other groups in Sri Lanka say that a substantial number of crimes involving powerful religious clergy or any religious leader often goes unreported. So there is no way to know the scale at which this unfolds in Sri Lanka's powerful religious circles. And if we just zoom out for a minute, this is not even about one country, religious leaders of one community. The issue is far more widespread. The church, for example, has been at the center of massive child abuse and rape scandals from the highest and the most powerful of the clergy, whether it is in the US, the UK, or any other part of the world. In fact, the pontiffs for years have issued public apologies for sex abuse scandals involving powerful priests. But the cases keep coming to light, whether old or new. There have been hundreds of children who have been sexually abused and repeatedly raped by these men who assume that their position shields them from any scrutiny. And the truth is, more often than not, they're right. The following is so blind that there is backlash and unease any time there is a case anywhere in the world where a religious leader is under investigation for assaulting or abusing a minor. Families do not believe their own children. Followers do not believe the victims. On the contrary, they are ostracized and their stories are brushed under the carpet until someone takes notice and puts the spotlight on these powerful people hiding behind the almost impenetrable shield of religion. In the case of Sri Lanka's top monk Palegama Hemarthana, the scrutiny has begun. But will it reach its logical conclusion? That is the million-dollar question. This next case is from a different country. Different accused, different manner of committing the crime, but the victim is the same. In this case, the incident is from Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, and at the receiving end of brutal rape and murder is an 8-year-old girl. The victim, whose name is being withheld as she's a minor, was a student in the 2nd grade. Just last month, on 19th of May, she was found beheaded in her neighbor's house. The residents of that house are a couple by the name Swapna and Sohail, a couple who are now the key accused in this case. On May 20th, the victim's father filed a police complaint in which he named both Swapna and Sohail and also mentioned a third unidentified person. The details of the complaint reveal that it was Sohail who lured the child into his home, then inside his room and raped her. According to the investigators, the prime accused slit her throat after raping the victim and then also tried to dismember the body in order to conceal the crime. The outcry in society was massive and authorities quickly took action. Sohail gave a confessional statement to the police admitting to the crime. Within days, on May the 24th, police submitted a charge sheet. It accused Sohail of rape, murder, and destruction of evidence. Swapna, on the other hand, was charged with destruction of evidence and providing false information. In the last week, Children Violence Suppression Tribunal has heard the case. During trial proceedings, prosecution side presented 16 witnesses, which include the victim's parents, an elder sister, 3 neighbors, a doctor, a Dhaka Metropolitan Magistrate, and the investigator. All of them gave their statements before the tribunal. But during the trial, when it was the defense's turn, there was a twist in the entire story. Both Sapna and Sohail said that they were in fact innocent. When the prime accused brought in the name of the third man is when the entire story changed. Sohail, while being escorted by the police, shouted to the media about a man called Dollar, about how this man was responsible for raping the girl and not him. In court just days ago, he pleaded not guilty, retracting his entire confession to the police. Sohail then asked the judge to pardon him and again blamed this man called Dollar, who was from Mirpur, for the rape and murder of the 8-year-old child. Sohail said that this Dollar individual was with him, but nobody saw him and authorities should catch this man instead. Now, the public prosecutor has said that Sohail mentioned Dollar to confuse people about justice. He said, and I quote, "Sohail is doing this now at someone's instigation." He did not mention the name Dollar in his confessional statements. Now, by the time you hear the story, the trial may have ended. Agencies did their job in apprehending and quickly beginning legal proceedings to get the victim and her family justice. But there is still a lingering doubt. Is there a third person involved? Who really is it? And how did he escape after raping a child? Because when it comes to motive, it is a futile exercise to even wonder what the reason was to hurt a child like that, an 8-year-old girl. For a sane, logical person who is averse to criminal activity, it is hard to understand any of this. But from a family, the family of that 8-year-old girl that had to endure it and has to live with it for the rest of their lives, the reality is much worse. In the last episode of Prime Crime, we brought you the chilling story of Laetitia R., a 42-year-old woman who survived repeated rape and torture at the hands of her former partner. But instead of hiding behind closed courtroom doors, she chose to face her abuser in public, determined to make sure that the world heard her story. Her courage was inspired by the landmark Gisèle Pellicot mass rape trial that shook France. Now again, the country is confronting yet another disturbing case of sexual abuse. Only this time, the victims are school children, and the accused predator is someone entrusted with their care. The parents of the children have taken the extraordinary step of opening the trial to public, drawing inspiration from Gisèle Pellicot's decision to waive anonymity and demand accountability in the open. In France, cases involving minors are almost always held behind closed doors. But as the trial begins in Paris, parents groups across the country say that long-ignored child abuse scandals can no longer remain hidden in silence.
It's very important to be here because it's very important for the government and for the whole society to be aware of what's going on inside our school, to be aware and also to take real decision to protect our children, which is not the case currently.
At the center of it all is 36-year-old David G., a freelance journalist who worked in a kindergarten to help make ends meet. This man on your screens, shielding his face from photographers by holding up a yellow document file. This is David G. He went on to trial in Paris, accused of sexually assaulting kindergarten children. This is the first such public hearing since a flurry of allegations of abuse rocked Paris. David has been charged with sexual assault of 5 preschoolers, aged 3 to 5 years old, and also sexual harassment of 2 female colleagues between September 2024 and April 2025. Now, David has denied all the allegations. 4 other families have also accused him of sexually abusing their children in cases not reviewed by the prosecutor's office, but they will be referred to in court. Dozens of activists, including the co-founder of parents group Me Too School, have protested outside the courthouse before the trial started.
We are here today to support the young victims, support the parents, and to say and show that this is coming from all over France and that it's enough. There needs to be a national wake-up call at some point. We need to put resources on the table, both financial and human.
This case emerged in April 2025 after several children told their parents that they have allegedly been sexually abused at a nursery school. The accused in this question assaulted the kids while supervising them in bathrooms, during lunch breaks, and in after-school care. David, while denying the accusations, admitted to breaking the guidelines, including that an adult looking after pupils should not have a child sit on their lap. An initial warning raised by a mother months earlier was apparently ignored by the school authorities. Families say that the trauma of these assaults was compounded by what they describe as a struggle to be taken seriously by the authorities. The accused faces 10 years in jail and a fine of $175,000 US. And a ruling on this case is due next month on the 7th. Similar cases surfacing in Paris and across France have sparked growing public outrage in recent months. In fact, weeks earlier, Paris prosecutors confirmed investigations involving 84 nursery schools, nearly 20 elementary schools, and around 10 daycare centers all across the capital. These numbers have shocked the country. Paris's Mayor Emmanuel Gregoire says 78 school and after-school staff members have already been suspended since the start of 2026. Among them are 31 individuals accused of suspected sexual violence. Gregoire, who was elected as Paris's mayor in March this year, has made combating child abuse a priority and has unveiled a $22 million plan. Before being elected, Gregoire publicly revealed that he was in fact sexually abused as a child while attending elementary school when he was between the age of 9 and 10. The present scandal has also exposed serious cracks in France's system, because in the country's public schools, teachers are employed directly by the state. But school assistants and after-school activity leaders are hired by city authorities, raising urgent questions about screening, about oversight, and the overall safety of children. According to an independent commission, an estimated 160,000 children suffer rape or sexual assault each year in France. What began as isolated allegations is now exposing a far deeper crisis within France's child protection system. And as more families choose to speak out publicly, the silence that once shielded predators is finally beginning to break. That's all we have for you on this episode of Prime Crime. We'll be back next week with more such stories and cases from around the world. Thanks for watching.